you have got creative with running long distances, as I have enjoyed doing in the past.
Mhm.
And there is a similar thread of DNA that runs through that as to the reasoning why, which is a mission behind raising awareness and discussions around men's mental health and suicide prevention,
Yeah.
principally. So before we dive into what you've done, I think it's important to really pull on the thread of why is that what's important to you within the context of this creative expression of a simple biomechanical movement pattern, because it's
Mm.
sometimes easy to be cynical, and I sometimes struggle with this when coming up with these ideas as well, is how can moving from A to B be a mechanism for something bigger than that? But it
Mm.
really can be. And you've recently just nailed that in terms of community activation and tangible engagement for people. But the reason why is ultimately what made it authentic and valuable for people getting involved in the first place. Because if your reason why I wasn't strong enough, people would see right through it.
100%.
And that's why I think it's been so successful, because it came across so authentically. So what is the reason why?
So I think, especially in this day and age when we're living through a cost of living crisis, there's also a mental health crisis going on. I think the two are very closely linked, especially in places like London, where I've got friends who are like struggling, not just mentally, but financially as well. And it has such a massive effect on everything. As a result of that, I've seen more and more friends use mental health services. Friends that I historically would have been like, oh, like they're all right, like, they're pretty sound, like, and all of a sudden I started seeing friends struggling. I've had my own struggles in the past too. And again, never wanted to talk too publicly about them. More in a case of how I've dealt with them. I'm always much inclined to talk about. But I think we're going through a period of time now, especially in men's mental health, where, there have been improvements, but a lot of the time it's just a case of like being seen to do something. I think now there's, my biggest thing is trying to create spaces for men to be able to comfortably talk about things. That's why I started a run club where people can come together, do something hard like a long run, and hang out and spend time together. Because there's so many people in London that end up moving to the city, not really knowing anyone. The only people they know, their work colleagues. The only way they hang out is going for drinks. And actually, they are found very alone. I'm very fortunate. All my friends live in London, and I've got a very strong network of friends. But I've noticed as well, like through running, I've got to meet lots of people who talk about how lonely they find London. And I think that's a terribly sad thing to do, especially, in this day and age where there's 10 million people in a city, yet people find themselves to be lonely. Like, what's up with that? So I wanted to create a space and a way that people can feel comfortable talking about it. I find when you're running, say when you go for a walk with someone, you're not looking them in the eye, you're next to each other.
Yeah.
It helps with the flow of conversation, especially to a bit more depth as well. Because you haven't got to look in the eye. No one's got to look you in the eye when you're talking about it. So I thought that was a really good way to start the run club earlier this year when I was training for the Tube Challenge. I wanted to raise money for Calm, the campaign against living miserably, because they provide some really critical services and leading the fight against suicide means a lot. Because again, like I've seen so many friends of mine struggle with, the day to day, struggling with so many different aspects of life, and it seems they're in their words that no one really cared. Like people say they do, but actually, actions, everything. So it's like, okay, well, let's do something. What can I do around that other than be there for my friends, listen to them when they're down, and offer my own support? Okay, well, let's do something about it this way. And I wanted to um, do a challenge that people can get involved with as well. I think that's really important when doing challenges like this, is that it's not about me, it's about other people can get involved with it and be a part of it.
Especially for blokes, I think, because
Yeah.
tangible, action driven interaction where you feel like you've accomplished something
Yes.
is very, very important, which is why I think selfishly for me, what I accidentally did with the November events from 2018 to 2020 was give myself the environment to go on the sort of self-discovery journey that I didn't know I needed to go on,
Mm.
to actually really equip myself with the toolbox that now allows me to manage my own mental health quite astutely,
Yeah.
whereby I can know that, okay, if you're going to be hungover this Sunday, then you need to accept that there's going to be a bit of a downturn from that, and you need to create a space off the back end of that where you're not going to be able to punish yourself, because you will if you've got a busy Sunday, but you'll also enjoy spending time with the friends on the Saturday. So both are good things, but either way, you'll find a way to punish yourself. So as a silly example, I can look at it that way. Going back to the Thursday drinks example, London for me was very lonely in the end, because I lived 10 minutes away from some of my best friends and would see them once every 2 months.
Yeah.
And that was just wild because it made the chaos of it made everything feel so fast paced, but there was so much stuff happening where you almost didn't get time to just spend some time not looking people in the eye, walking along side by side. That wasn't factored into the chaos of the city, was it?
It's a very relentless cycle, London, because always stuff going on, and by the time you get to the weekend, people are just done. They're giving so much to themselves, time to work, time to this, other, and it's just so, it's very hard to find moments of peace for a lot of people because of the way nature work, getting into work. This and like there's very few quiet times. Like I remember I used to years ago drive to work where I used to live, and it was peaceful because I could listen to a bit of music, chill out there. And now I take the tube to events. I'm like, holy fucking shit. Even today, getting the train up here, like I had to get the tube to the train, then the train up. It was like I was just being on the tube with bags and whatnot. Like it was a lot to be dealing with at 7 this morning. I was like, hang on a minute, whoa, this is not a night. This is a very, I almost need to like have a bit of chill time now, like just afterwards. So I get that, and it's that lack of downtime, that lack of peace, that lack of nature, that lack of no one's around. You can just be with your thoughts, but more there's always so much distraction going on. And I think especially these days when people check on their phones constantly, like there's so many ways to distract yourself now than there ever was before.
Yeah.
And I think that's the case. And that's why I love the beauty of the long run. You're not on your phone. You're out there. You maybe with someone, maybe with your own thoughts, but you're through the process of doing something repetitive. It's almost like a meditative state, whether that's with someone talking, whether that's in your own head, just working through things. I always find the best ideas I get for anything is when I do long runs on my own.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got a little black book at my front door that I come in and scribble things on furiously when I come through the door, because normally if they come to me during the day, I put notes. I don't take my phone with me on long runs, or it's in a pocket that I can't access without taking my bag off in a trail bag, for example. But you said you've used running and the mechanism for managing your own, or essentially what you've done to manage some of the challenges you've had in the past yourself. Do you feel that you're now in a place where you have the toolbox you need to know what's good for you, know what's bad for you, act accordingly without being too dogmatic about certain things?
$1,000,000%. Yeah. Like I know I'm not, I cut myself some slack here and there. Absolutely. But I also know that I make far better decisions when I'm running. I was talking about this earlier with the man over there. It was talking about when I'm in training block for an event, for a challenge, whatever it is, I make significantly better life decisions all round. I look at the 5 months leading up to the running the London Underground, and I didn't really make any bad decisions when it comes to what I was up to, how I interacted with my friends changed and improved. We spent a lot of time working out together, running more, doing stuff that did involve getting absolutely plastered. We would, even times I went away to events, it just everything worked better. I had much more structure and discipline. I had much better clarity of thought. The content I was making was better. My channels were growing well. I was like, everything just was better. The relationships I had with people were better. I was a nicer person because all these things were going well in my life. And then I noticed actually just as soon as the challenge finished, I had no point of reference for training. I noticed I was making worse decisions. And I was actually, I was like, hang on a minute. I like the person I am when I'm like training really hard for something and like I'm getting after something because I've got focus. I've got a bit of drive for what it is. And again, it's not the goal that's the goal. It's I like being the improvement is for me is what I like. It's the same with when people talk about running marathons. It's not the fact that you get to say you run a marathon. It's not the fact that you get to wear a medal around your neck. It's none of those things because they by themselves aren't important. What the value of running a marathon is you are a different person than the person who said let's go do that at the start of the training block. You're a complete different person. You pick up different habits, different disciplines. You are by that nature changed because you are now behaving in different ways. That's the value of these things. The value isn't to be able to say, I've done this. No, for me, the thing I'm proudest the most of running on an underground was training, being able to train sustainably for it, being able to have so many people encouraged to join me with it. The actual fact of doing it isn't really that important for me. It's everything else around it that for me is the true value, the true lessons I've learned through it is so much more important. Because also I didn't get a medal for doing it, so I can't really be like, oh, there's a medal there. Doesn't matter.